What are the everyday behaviors that irritate you the most? Each of us has a personal list of actions that truly test our patience. For me, there are two that never fail to push my limits. The first one happens when I've been standing in a long queue for more than an hour, tired, waiting my turn, and suddenly someone appears out of nowhere, completely unfazed, and cuts right to the front as if the rest of us are invisible. At that moment, a sarcastic thought crosses my mind. Excuse me, did you hack the queue system digitally, or are you related to the shop owner? The second situation takes place on public transport. You're sitting there, lost in your thoughts, enjoying a rare moment of quiet, when suddenly someone starts a loud phone call, talking as if they're at home in their living room. Worse yet, they switch to speaker mode, forcing everyone to listen to their personal life against their will. Have they forgotten that headphones and text messages exist? Moments like these almost make me imagine a dark concept like the purge, a single day each year where all laws are lifted and people take justice into their own hands. But then I catch myself. Violence is never a solution, and such behavior is anything but ethical. These annoying acts are what writer Jean-Francois Marmion tried to understand. He gathered a team of scientists and researchers to study foolishness, its causes, forms, and effects. The result was his thought-provoking book, The Psychology of Stupidity. So, what exactly does it mean to be foolish? We often use the word fool as an insult, as if it's synonymous with stupid or simple-minded. But in truth, foolishness is far more complex. It's not a matter of intelligence. Anyone, regardless of status or education, can act foolishly at times. In short, foolishness means acting recklessly, irrationally, ignoring logic and consequences even when we know better.
The triggers of foolishness. Understanding the mind behind irrational behavior. According to Dr. Aaron James, foolishness isn't just about doing something silly. It's a behavioral and social pattern that gives a person an unjustified sense of entitlement and superiority. This mindset builds a kind of psychological armor that protects them from criticism, guilt, or self-doubt. You can clearly see this in the person who cuts the line, acting as if their time is more valuable than everyone else's, or as if their needs are somehow more important. Why do they behave this way? Because deep down, they believe they possess some special quality, perhaps intelligence, beauty, or status, that grants them exceptional privilege. At the heart of every foolish act lies a complete disregard for others and a lack of awareness of equality. If you were to remind such a person that there are other human beings sharing this planet, they might respond arrogantly, "Are those people even worth calling humans?" The author goes on to explain that foolishness comes in different degrees. There's the ordinary fool, whose impact is limited. And then there's the legendary fool, whose level of absurdity could, if divided among the whole world, still leave him on top. So what separates these levels of foolishness? The answer lies in what psychologists call the triggers of stupidity. In the second chapter, Dr. Serge Sicciati, a psychologist who devoted much of his research to this topic, identifies four main triggers that push people toward foolish behavior. The first trigger is a simplistic worldview. The fool sees life only in black and white. To them, everything is either right or wrong, good or bad, with no shades of gray in between. Such people often judge complex situations from afar and issue shallow, confident statements like, "It's simple, right is right, wrong is wrong." They reduce reality to catchy sayings or empty proverbs without any real understanding. The second trigger is the tendency to believe anything without questioning it. This includes a strong desire to accept information that fits their existing beliefs while rejecting anything that challenges them. They are the ones who passionately believe in conspiracy theories, convinced, for example, that COVID-19 was created in a lab or that vaccines contain microchips designed to control humanity as part of some grand global scheme.
Some fools are drawn to any idea that satisfies their urge for uncritical belief. They're the ones who claim the Earth is flat, that NASA is deceiving the world, or that a secret underground government meets in hidden chambers to control global affairs. These conspiracy theories give them a false sense of superiority, a comforting illusion that they alone know the truth, while everyone else is blind and brainwashed. In reality, this mindset is just another form of intellectual arrogance wrapped in insecurity. The third trigger of foolishness is overestimating one's own competence. Psychology explains this through the well-known Dunning-Kruger effect, which describes 4 stages in how people perceive their skills. The peak of Mount Stupidity, where someone has only a very shallow understanding of a topic, yet feels absolute confidence. Think of a person who watches a 5-minute video about the stock market and suddenly believes they can solve the world's economic crises. The valley of despair, when reality hits and they realize how little they actually know. Their confidence collapses, replaced with self-doubt and frustration. The slope of learning. With effort and practice, they begin to gain real understanding, gradually climbing toward competence. The plateau of wisdom, where genuine expertise is accompanied by deep humility. The person now understands both their strengths and their limits. The true fool, however, never leaves the first stage. They remain stuck forever at the top of Mount Stupidity, proudly declaring, "I know everything!" while in truth, they know almost nothing. Finally, the fourth and most dangerous trigger of foolishness is cognitive bias. After all we've seen, the fool's love for oversimplification, blind belief, and self-overestimation, this last factor reveals the subtle ways our minds deceive us. Cognitive biases are simply mental shortcuts, strategies the brain uses to save time and effort when processing information. Because the human mind is naturally lazy, it constantly looks for quick ways to make sense of the world. While these shortcuts can be useful, they often lead to irrational thinking and poor decisions. They're not proof of stupidity, they're proof of our human nature. One of the most common is confirmation bias, our tendency to seek information that supports what we already believe while ignoring what contradicts it. If you think summer is better than winter, your mind will automatically recall the pleasant sunny days and forget the exhausting heat. You'll compare them to cold, rainy winter days, conveniently overlooking the warm, cozy winter nights. This is also related to what psychologists call the framing effect, how our judgments change depending on how a situation is presented. Imagine you're traveling and someone offers you 2 identical options, framed in completely different ways.
When intelligence meets foolishness. Imagine you're choosing between 2 flights. The first one says it has a 97% chance of a safe landing, while the second states there's a 3% chance of crashing. Mathematically, both mean the same thing, yet most people would instinctively choose the first flight. Why? Because our minds are drawn to positive framing. We feel comforted when information sounds optimistic. That's why doctors often say the surgery has a 70% success rate, instead of there's a 30% chance of failure. Another powerful bias is the self-serving bias, a favorite among fools. When a fool succeeds, they proudly credit their brilliance, effort, and uniqueness. But when they fail, they blame others, or circumstances, or even bad luck. The real danger isn't that we have these biases. They're part of being human. It's the blind confidence that prevents us from seeing our mistakes or accepting the truth. As the saying goes, ignorance breeds overconfidence, while true knowledge inspires humility, caution, and reflection. Chapter 4. The Intelligent Fool. What happens when intelligence and foolishness collide? Many assume that intelligence protects a person from acting foolishly, but reality tells a different story. one can be a genius and a fool at the same time. Dr. Ava K. Zander Tillman explains that what we call intelligence, often measured by IQ tests, is merely the ability to recognize patterns and reason logically. However, intellectual arrogance can easily turn this gift into a trap. A smart person might tell themselves, "I'm too intelligent to make the same mistakes as others." But that very thought becomes a veil of pride, blinding them from upcoming dangers and closing their mind to criticism or new perspectives. A striking example of this is Steve Jobs, the visionary founder of Apple. In 2003, he was diagnosed with a rare form of pancreatic cancer, a type that could have been treated successfully with surgery. But Jobs, confident in his extraordinary intellect, refused conventional medicine. Instead, he placed his trust in alternative treatments he believed in. By the time he turned back to modern medicine, it was too late. Neither the surgery nor advanced therapies could save him. Even the brightest minds can fall victim to foolishness, because wisdom is not about knowing everything, it's about recognizing that we don't.
The language of foolishness and the theater of social media. After several late attempts at treatment, Steve Jobs underwent a liver transplant, but it was too late. He passed away in 2011, leaving behind not only a legacy of innovation, but also a powerful lesson. Even extraordinary intelligence can lead to fatal foolishness when pride clouds judgment. Chapter 5: The Language of Foolishness, How Words Reveal the Fool. Professor Patrick Moreau, a scholar of literature, believes that the way people use language can expose their foolishness. After analyzing countless posts across social media, he found that fools often share one common trait: a loss of shared sense in how they choose their words. Language works because words carry agreed-upon meanings within a community. When you hear the word killer, you naturally think of a criminal who has taken a life and deserves punishment. But a fool might use the same word to describe a butcher, calling him a killer of animals. This isn't simple ignorance. It's a deliberate distortion of meaning, a willful attempt to twist language to serve one's personal ideology. This is precisely what extremist groups often do. They drain words of their true meaning and refill them with new, manipulative ones that justify their beliefs regardless of truth or logic. That's why Moreau warns us to stay alert, to use words responsibly, and to keep them aligned with the common understanding shared by others. Do so not only to be understood clearly, but also to avoid appearing foolish in the eyes of those who listen. Chapter 6: Foolishness on Social Media, the Stage of Narcissism. To further support his argument, Moreau turned his attention to what he calls the largest festival of fools in human history: social media platforms. These digital arenas naturally feed narcissism. Countless studies have shown that narcissism is closely linked to performative behavior, the constant display of one's photos, possessions, and achievements. This endless exhibition creates a dangerous illusion that everyone is watching, that everyone cares, and that every post, selfie, or opinion truly matters to the entire world. In reality, this self-centered theater doesn't earn connection. It amplifies isolation and transforms the digital world into an echo chamber of vanity.
Narcissism, fame, and how to fight foolishness. Digital psychologists call these behaviors self-enhancement strategies, tactics people use to preserve and polish their online social image. They typically operate by two main routes: exaggerated self-display and aggressive attacks on others. Digital narcissism shows up in two clear forms. First, there's the obsessive selfie culture. Narcissistic individuals flood feeds with endless photos and anxiously count every like, while rarely engaging with other people's posts. They want to be the sole center of attention. Second, there's the hostile denunciation, lashing out at critics to silence dissent and maintain an inflated self-image.
Research has shown a strong link between narcissism and performative online behavior. So how does this relate to foolishness? Quite simply, extreme narcissism breeds folly. When the goal becomes staying in the spotlight at any cost, people start posting, performing, and provoking in ways that are silly, offensive, or unethical, all in the name of going viral. This is foolishness for fame, the willingness to appear ridiculous if it means trending for a week. The implicit motto becomes, "Don't worry if we look foolish, just make us famous." Chapter 7. How to Fight Foolishness. After exploring the many faces of foolishness, the pressing question remains, what can we do about it? The answer requires action on two levels, collective and individual. Collective foolishness shows up in institutions and workplaces when bad decisions accumulate and many people go along with them. Often, employees stay silent because they assume everyone else agrees, a phenomenon known as false consensus. To fight this, organizations must build cultures that prioritize competence over tenure, encourage open dialogue, and create safe channels for reporting mistakes. Break the fear of speaking up and reward dissent that is constructive. Individual foolishness is tackled by cutting off what fuels it, attention and approval. Make foolish acts socially costly rather than celebrated. When a reckless move is met with critique, accountability, or even mild ridicule instead of applause, it removes the reward that feeds the behavior. People must face real consequences for foolish choices. Only then will the incentive to perform foolishness for attention shrink.
At some point, the fool begins to reflect, or at least hides his foolishness instead of flaunting it as a badge of pride. A closing message. Remember, my friend, foolishness is like a mirror. It exists everywhere, and at any moment you might see your own reflection in it. That's why we all need a healthy dose of humility and constant self-examination. The world doesn't need more fools. It already has plenty. What it truly needs are people who cultivate critical thinking and become part of the solution, not the problem. So train yourself and teach your children and those around you to look at everything with a questioning, analytical eye. It's the most powerful weapon we can wield against ignorance and folly, turning awareness into light. Until we meet again, keep learning, keep growing, and never forget, with self-confidence, nothing is impossible. Our journey with this book is only the beginning. The world is full of ideas waiting to be discovered. If this summary inspired you or sparked your curiosity, make reading a lifelong habit. Let books open wider horizons for your mind and soul. Hit the like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to our channel, The World of Summarized Books, where knowledge is served fresh for your mind and spirit, with insightful summaries that help you grow, think, and evolve, step by step. Remember always, every book you read gives you a new life, so seize the chance and join us again in your next journey among the pages of wisdom and knowledge.